Kim Jong Un visited Vladimir Putin recently, and he did it using a rather unusual means of transport for a world leader. He went by train. Here it is here, pulling into the station in Vladivostok. The train is pretty impressive. Over 90 carriages long, it includes within it sleeping quarters, audience chambers, conference centres, restaurants, security details, and even space for Kim's armoured cars. It is rumoured to have anti-aircraft capabilities and is so heavily armoured its top speed does not exceed 60 km an hour, which is very slow indeed for a modern train. Kim is also living it up in luxury on board. The Guardian, for instance, has called it luxuriously appointed. CNN has dubbed it the train of luxury, and Bloomberg has called it swanky. But it's not just the decor that looks nice, for the food options on the train are out of this world. Here is, for instance, a reporter from the news channel News 9 describing the food on offer.
For Kim's travel to Russia, the train, reports say, was well stocked with fresh lobster and cases of French Bordeaux and Burgundy red wines.
And here is Lee Sung-yoon, an expert on North Korea.
Lobsters flown in during his visit traveling across Russia.
So from the reporting, we are led to believe that Kim Jong Un is living it up on his luxury train as his people starve. There is only one problem though. The most egregious example of this luxury, the lobster story I just showed you, is not actually about him. It is about his father, Kim Jong-il. So in 2001, Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un's predecessor, who reportedly had a fear of flying, decided to make the 20,000-kilometre journey to Moscow by train. The journey would take him 21 days. On at least part of this journey, he was accompanied by Konstantin Pulakovsky, an official from the Russian Foreign Office. Pulakovsky's job was basically to facilitate the comfort of Kim's trip while in Russia. Upon leaving the Foreign Office, Pulakovsky would write a sensationalised memoir about the trip called The Orient Express, in which he would detail the lobster story you've heard. He would also account that Kim would regularly fly in food from such exotic locations as Europe, North Korea, China and elsewhere in Russia. There were also rumours that there were dancing girls and buxom waitresses abounded. Pulakovsky, however, is not a reliable narrator. By the time he came to publish the book, he had become a businessman, specialising in import and export out of Pyongyang. The book seems to have been, at least in part, a strategy by Pulakovsky to make his connections with the North Korean government seem very deep, and therefore make his business seem more alluring to investors. Both Russia and North Korea condemned the book upon its publication. And anyway, even if everything Pulakovsky said was true, it was from over 20 years ago and about a completely different person entirely. There seems no reason at all to believe that Kim Jong Un's train looks anything like his father's. But even if it is true that Kim is eating luxurious food while on his diplomatic trip to Russia, well, that would just make him part of the pack when it came to international diplomatic circuits. For example, at the recent G7 in Japan, this is what their menu looked like. The meal began with sake-steamed oysters, served with caviar, accompanied by Japanese tiger prawns, marinated in shuto, a sauce derived from fermented entrails of bonito in sake, honey and Mirian rice wine. Leaders were also served sea bream with Japanese musaki mushrooms, simmering stonefish and slipper lobsters. Next came famously marbled beef sourced from Hiroshima, known as hiba beef, served alongside red sea urchin and eggplants, complemented by a selection of sparkling sake and red wine. There is a reason that politicians get fat while in office. Even really having a luxuriously appointed apartment is not really uncommon. For example, the current Prime Minister of Great Britain, Rishi Sunak, is worth hundreds of millions of pounds and has his own private pool. One of his predecessors, Boris Johnson, also got into a lot of trouble for the amount of money he had spent renovating 10 Downing Street. And King Charles has just given himself a pay increase, as he lives in numerous palaces. Well, his mother, Queen Elizabeth, had her own private train and a fleet of, well, ships. If Kim is living it up in a life of luxury, while his people suffer, well, he isn't the only one. But the reporting on the train is a little bit strange. For example, the Guardian article I mentioned that talks about the train being luxuriously appointed accompanied it with this picture here. I mean, it's nice, right? Like, these are nice sofas, but they wouldn't be out of place in the waiting room of my local bank. It's not exactly luxury. And then there's this clip that has been going about on South Korean media and has got replay in the West. This is a clip taken from North Korean media and reportedly shows inside the offices of Kim Jong Un while he's on the train. Again, it looks nice, but it wouldn't really be out of keeping for a normal business office. It's considerably less plush than, say, Donald Trump's office. So the train seems nice, but not particularly luxurious, at least by the standards of world leaders. What were they expecting from the waiting room of a leader of a country? Non-well-appointed pink armchairs? It all seems a little bit strange. But then perhaps we could ask why Kim is coming by train in the first place, if not to live it up in the lap of luxury. Well, trains are a big part of the North Korean leader's mystique. Both Kim Il-sung, the founder of the country, and Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong Un's predecessor, used trains extensively when touring North Korea and going on foreign missions. You can still go and visit the trains in Pyongyang to this day. And Kim Jong-un has kept up the tradition, being known to tour the country of North Korea doing his spot inspections by train. However, Kim can and does fly. For example, he used a plane to go and see Donald Trump in Singapore. However, he does use trains more often than planes when going to visit foreign leaders. The reason for this may be that train is just easier for the North Koreans to secure. You see, due to the sanctions on North Korea, their air fleet is quite antiquated. This makes them less safe and less easily secured than a train. And the North Koreans do have every reason to believe that the South Koreans and the Americans will take any opportunity to spy on them. Now, in the modern world, leaders are expected to be always contactable, especially when they are going on long trips. For a country like North Korea, which has a bit of a barracks mentality, it is important for them that their leader is always in a secure location. This is both from any potential assassination and also having the ability to have a secure line to call back to the capital. For the North Koreans, this is easier to do from a train than from some random hotel room they have been given by some foreign country. Kim's choice of train then may not exactly be because it is easier to make luxurious, but because it is easier to secure. For example, if they flew by plane, there is no way that he would be able to have his own armoured car, which for the very cautious North Korean leadership is a must. In other words, North Korea is in many ways a very unique country, but the leader's train is actually pretty boring and banal. So why has this visit attracted so much sensational attention on the train? So I think it's because the so-called Hermit Kingdom is a little bit of a locked box when it comes to Western reporting. Westerners have less access to North Korea than other countries in East Asia, especially since COVID meant that North Korea has locked down its borders quite tightly. There also have been less defectors since the famines in the 90s and early noughties. What this means is that North Korea has become a bit of a blank slate, in which it becomes easier to project old orientalist tropes of despotism and decadence than it would be in other comparable East Asian countries. Take this train story for an example. Here we have a pretty normalised train. However, when we take badly sourced facts from over 20 years ago and cobble them together with out-of-context security and living arrangements which are pretty normal for a world leader, what we have instead is a sensationalised story that actually does nothing to expand our knowledge of the country at hand. The truth is, we don't actually know what is happening inside this train, or for that matter, what is happening most of the time inside North Korea. We should resist the urge to sate our hunger for information about this unique country by filling up the void with meaningless noise. Okay, thank you everyone for watching this video. If you liked it, well, why don't you like, share or subscribe? In the description I have left a link to a video that I really liked by a great channel called DPRK Explained. A couple of years ago they did a great explainer on the North Korean train system, and I think gives you a lot more information than you can get from any of the sensational reports I covered in this video. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.